It's June 18th, 2023, and the OceanGate Titan submersible begins its descent towards the Titanic, almost 4,000 meters below the surface. Descending at just 1 knot, the 2.5-hour journey to the seafloor is filled with tension and uncertainty. Throughout the entire journey, regular communications between Titan and its support ship, Polar Prince, occur in the form of pings every 5 to 10 seconds to confirm the submersible status. At 10:14 a.m., Polar Prince asks if Titan can see it on its display. Titan responds with K, and later, yes. At 10:47 a.m., the Titan submersible sends a message to the surface stating, dropping 2 weights, possibly indicating an emergency ascent. 6 seconds later, just 475 meters from the wreck of the Titanic, Titan sends its final ping. The Polar Prince calls out repeatedly for updates, but there's no response. Sometime after 10:47 a.m., the Titan submersible imploded, instantly killing all 5 passengers on board. What began as a routine dive to one of the most iconic shipwrecks in history had turned into a chilling mystery. In the hours and days that followed, the world watched anxiously as an international search and rescue mission unfolded.
Banging sounds detected in the North Atlantic might be coming from the 5-passenger Titan submersible.
The implosion of the Titan sub wasn't just the end of 5 lives. It marked the beginning of serious questions, investigations, and consequences.
No one is dying under my watch. Period.
What really happened to the Titan? And what became of OceanGate, the company behind it all?
I think this is one of the safest things I will ever do.
This is the story of OceanGate and its fate after the Titan implosion. Before we delve into the aftermath of this tragic event, we must first realize that the implosion of the Titan submersible wasn't a tragic accident. It was a disaster years in the making. To understand why, we have to look deeper into OceanGate's history and the bold, risky vision that led to Titan's creation. Stockton Rush and Guillermo Sonline founded OceanGate aiming to build a fleet of 5-person submersibles to make deep-sea exploration more accessible.
I founded OceanGate in 2009 with the goal of expanding awareness of the ocean through manned submersible activity.
In 2009, they bought their first sub, Antipodes, a used steel-hulled vessel that could dive up to 300 meters and seat 5 people. By 2010, OceanGate was offering dives off the coast of California, charging up to $40,000 per person. Since taking uncertified tourists underwater operates in a legal gray area, the company called these guests citizen scientists to emphasize their role in exploration rather than tourism. Years later, OceanGate began designing its own submersibles, aiming for innovative and cost-effective solutions. Their first custom-built sub, Cyclops 1, used a repurposed steel hull from a vessel named Lola, with development support from the University of Washington and Boeing. Unveiled in 2015, Cyclops 1 was a 5-person sub with a steel hull and a fully acrylic viewing port that limited its maximum depth to 500 meters. Measuring about 6.7 meters, 2.7 meters wide, and weighing 9 tons, it was piloted using a modified wireless game controller and could operate for up to 8 hours on battery power. Cyclops 1 was tested on several commercial and scientific missions, notably in 2016 during a survey of the Andrea Doria wreck off Massachusetts at 73 meters. During that dive, Stockton Rush, piloting the sub, crashed it into the wreck despite his crew advising him to slow down, a point later raised in a 2024 Coast Guard hearing as evidence of concerns over Rush's piloting and OceanGate's safety culture.
He took it down. I kept saying, please keep your distance. Don't tell me what to do. That was the conversation. He decided to go straight for the wreck.
Although Stockton Rush believed he had made significant progress with Cyclops 1, his ultimate goal was to build a submersible capable of reaching the Titanic wreck. In 2016, he began developing Cyclops 2, contracting Spencer Composites, renowned for high-performance pressure hulls, to build its carbon fiber hull while also ordering titanium components. The hull was made from layers of carbon fiber and epoxy resin arranged lengthwise and in a surrounding manner for maximum strength, then cured at 137 Celsius for 7 days. Engineered to withstand depths of 4,000 meters with an alleged 2.25 times safety factor, the carbon hull was bonded to titanium end caps using adhesive, a design choice that drew criticism from the deep-sea engineering community for deviating from industry standards. Upon completion, the submersible was renamed Titan. CEO Stockton Rush described it as an amazing engineering feat and was convinced that his carbon fiber hull was superior and more resistant than any other.
Carbon fiber in subsea vehicles is really the right substance to use. It's 3 times better on a strength to buoyancy basis than titanium, the next best thing.
Titan's interior was minimal compared to other submersibles. With a diameter of 1.3 meters, passengers would sit cross-legged on the floor. On the left, a screen displayed sonar data, while the right-hand screen served as the main control interface. A larger panel at the rear showed Titan's live external camera feed. Across the viewport was the only toilet on a submersible, offering scenic views. The 2 handles on the roof served as interior lights for the sub. Beneath the floor lay 4 oxygen cylinders, capable of supplying breathable air for up to 96 hours alongside the sub's battery system. Once the vessel reached its operating depth, all maneuvering was handled via a modified Logitech F710 wireless game controller. This drew criticism for its reliance on consumer-grade technology. However, the approach wasn't unusual. The U.S. Navy has used Xbox 360 controllers to operate photonics masts on Virginia-class submarines, citing their low cost, intuitive design, and familiarity to younger sailors. The tail cone, located outside the pressurized hull, housed batteries for propulsion, pressure-compensated containers filled with oil to protect electronics at depth, and syntactic foam distributed throughout the sub to maintain buoyancy and stability. The front dome port was bolted shut from the outside, meaning passengers could not exit without external assistance. To manage buoyancy, lead weights were attached to the landing skids, while steel pipes were secured under the hull to control Titan's descent. Upon reaching the ocean floor, some of these pipes were released to achieve neutral buoyancy. Additional ballast was dropped later to initiate the ascent back to the surface once the dive concluded. Despite criticism from deep diving experts, Stockton began experimenting with Titan, taking it near its maximum operating depth of 4,000 meters. At that depth, the water pressure is about 6,000 pounds per square inch, or the equivalent of having the Eiffel Tower pressing down on the hull. In a 2019 test dive off the coast of the Bahamas, submersible expert Carl Stanley accompanied OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush. During the descent past 3,000 meters, Stanley reported hearing loud gunshot-like cracking noises from the submersible's carbon fiber hull.
So we got down there and it's making noises that, the sound of a carbon fiber band breaking when it's in a 5-inch thick matrix is a lot of energy being released. And we were all clearly a little disnerved, but he had warned us.
After the dive, Stanley warned Rush that the hull might have a worsening defect and recommended delaying Titan's commercial debut for further testing. However, Rush dismissed his concerns and instructed him to keep the information confidential. Between 2021 and 2022, Titan conducted approximately 23 dives to the Titanic wreck site at a depth of 3,821 meters. Of these, 13 successfully reached the wreck, while the others were aborted due to technical failures or poor weather conditions. On some of these dives, the submersible experienced significant technical issues. For example, on one occasion, a thruster was installed backwards, causing Titan to spin in circles when trying to move forward.
Am I spinning?
Yes.
I am?
Yes.
Looks like it.
Now you're going north.
Oh my god.
And Scott is like, oh no, we have a problem.
When I'm thrusting forward, one of the thrusters is thrusting backwards right now. So the only thing I can do right now is a 360.
During this period, OceanGate also began taking paying customers on these missions, referring to them as mission specialists to highlight their involvement in operations and avoid classifying them as passengers. This terminology was reportedly used as part of a strategy to bypass U.S. regulations that apply to passenger transport and experimental submersibles. To withstand extreme conditions, most deep-diving submersibles use spherical titanium pressure hulls, as spheres are the optimal shape for evenly distributing the immense external pressure found in the deep ocean. Submersibles like Alvin, operated at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, the Mir submersible featured in James Cameron's 1997 film Titanic, and Nautil, operated by the French Research Institute Ifremer, all follow this design principle, allowing for a maximum rated depth of around 6,000 meters. Although they may look relatively similar from the outside, the section where passengers and sensitive equipment are housed is enclosed within a thick titanium sphere. In contrast, Titan featured a cylindrical design that introduced stress concentrations and relied on carbon fiber, a material that can develop cracks under repeated dives due to cyclic fatigue. Contrary to popular belief, carbon fiber has great compressive strength. However, its performance depends heavily on the quality of manufacturing, bonding process, and inspection. Many engineers agree the main risk isn't the material itself, but how its layers are applied. While fibers around the hull handle pressure well, the hull's cylindrical shape causes longitudinal fibers to be compressed by titanium domes, likely weakening them over time. Carbon fiber could potentially work for deep-sea use if shaped spherically, but OceanGate likely overlooked this flaw in Titan's design. As a result, David Lockridge, OceanGate's director of marine operations, raised serious safety concerns about the Titan submersible. He submitted a quality control inspection report highlighting critical issues. The hull lacked safety testing, there was delamination of the carbon fiber layers, and OceanGate refused to involve an independent certification agency. Shortly after, Lockridge was fired. Following his termination, OceanGate sued him for breaching his employment contract, misusing confidential information, and making false, damaging statements. The lawsuit centers on Lockridge's warnings, which OceanGate claims were either resolved or unfounded. To address damage reported in earlier dives, OceanGate undertook a major rebuild of the Titan's hull in 2021, but controversially reused old domes and interface rings despite engineering warnings. Scale models of the new hull initially failed pressure tests, and lifting rings were added against expert advice, potentially weakening the structure. In early 2023, further repairs were made, including relaminating layers of carbon fiber and improving the bond between carbon fiber and titanium components. However, these repairs were carried out internally, without external verification or certification, leaving persistent doubts about the hull's safety and durability. With no confirmed reports that the rebuilt hull underwent comprehensive deep-sea pressure testing, the Titan returned to the water on June 18, 2023, for what would be its first and ultimately final dive of the year. An hour and 45 minutes into the dive, Titan suffered a catastrophic implosion, killing CEO Stockton Rush, French deep-sea explorer Paul-Henri Nargolet, billionaire Hamish Harding, and British-Pakistani Shahzada Dawood and his son Solomon. In the hours after Titan disappeared, search efforts focused on locating the submersible, initially assuming a technical failure left it stranded on the seafloor. The Coast Guard highlighted Titan's 96-hour life support limit, which guided rescue timelines.
The operator of the vessel, that the vessel was designed with a 96-hour sustainment capability if there was an emergency on board. And so we're using that time, making the best use of every moment of that time to locate the vessel.
As that window passed with no contact, the mission shifted from rescue to recovery. Tragically, Titan's wreckage was found 500 meters from the bow of the Titanic in the early hours of June 22, 2023, confirming an implosion. The Coast Guard's response faced criticism after it was revealed that the U.S. Navy's sound surveillance system had detected a large implosion near the wreck on June 23rd, though this information was disclosed only much later. After the implosion was confirmed, multiple investigations were launched to understand the cause of the disaster. The U.S. Coast Guard initiated a formal investigation, while other agencies and independent bodies also began analyzing the events leading to the implosion. One of the main focuses of these investigations was the sub's design flaws and the company's failure to adhere to industry safety standards, especially regarding third-party certification. OceanGate faced intense legal and financial scrutiny following the implosion. Several lawsuits were filed by the victims' families, including a wrongful death suit brought by the Dawood family, as well as a $50 million lawsuit filed by the family of French explorer Paul-Henri Nargolet, alleging negligence and wrongful death. The plaintiffs claimed that OceanGate neglected safety protocols and ignored expert warnings. However, a liability waiver signed by all passengers, which mentioned the word death 9 times, ultimately shielded the company from many legal repercussions. Following the disaster, OceanGate went dormant, suspending its planned dive scheduled for 2024. No press conference, no follow-up interviews or public acknowledgement of responsibility were ever expressed. By mid-July 2023, OceanGate's website was disabled and stated that all future operations had been suspended. The company's Instagram page was set to private, and its YouTube channel, where it uploaded high-resolution footage of the Titanic wreck, deleted. OceanGate never meaningfully addressed the implosion beyond the initial confirmation of the loss of life on June 22, 2023, stating, "We now believe that our CEO, Stockton Rush, along with Hamish Harding, Shahzada Dawood and his son Solomon Dawood, and Paul-Henri Nargolet have sadly been lost. These men were true explorers who shared a distinct spirit of adventure." At the time of the disaster, OceanGate had plans to make deeper diving subs with max depths of 6,000 meters, Cyclops 3 and 4, with support from NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center via a non-technical partnership. They even secured $18.1 million in insider funding. However, these plans were obviously scrapped after the disaster. The following year, OceanGate co-founder Guillermo Sonline, who left in 2013, testified before a Coast Guard panel about the Titan implosion. He expressed condolences and hoped the tragedy would renew interest in deep-sea exploration rather than end it.
I hope that someday in the near future, we'll look back on this time as a major turning point in human history when the global general public finally took an active interest in all of our efforts, everything that all of us do to explore the deep oceans, to study them, and to preserve them.
After Stockton Rush's passing, OceanGate appointed Gordon Gardner as CEO and director to oversee the company during ongoing investigations and the winding down of operations. Gardner's role focused on managing the aftermath and ensuring compliance with investigations led by the U.S. Coast Guard and other agencies, some of which remain active. To date, no public statements or updates on OceanGate's future plans have been made since his appointment. Meanwhile, the tragedy and its handling still draw sharp criticism from prominent figures in the deep-sea exploration community. In an extended interview with 60 Minutes Australia, James Cameron condemned the rescue operation, stating that experts, including himself, knew early on that the crew had not survived.
Casa del Mar Stationery, that's the hotel I was in LA at the time that I heard about it. 9:25, that's AM, 9:25 confirmed implosion. And I literally wrote that on the pad the moment I heard from my naval source.
Cameron also questioned the U.S. Coast Guard's investigation, noting that despite offering his expertise, he was never contacted by investigators. He drew parallels to the original Titanic disaster, where ignored warnings led to a similar tragedy at the same site. Although the Titan tragedy has taught us many hard lessons, it hasn't stopped others from planning future expeditions to the Titanic wreck. Triton Submarines, backed by billionaire Larry Connor, recently announced a certified dive to the Titanic to show that deep-sea exploration can be conducted safely, unlike OceanGate's Titan. Still, the future of commercial Titanic dives remains uncertain. If any further expeditions do take place, it's clear that OceanGate will not be involved, as in their attempt to bring people closer to history, they became part of it. If you're intrigued by the Titanic story, don't miss my other video where I explore how the Titanic was finally found and why it took 73 years. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.